Hello, beautiful people of the internet. Welcome back to the Games and Culture Show. We got another review, this time for culture stuff.
Yeah,
Culture
pop culture.
stuff.
Not a game.
Not a game. Not a game. This is the
I see.
Games and Culture Show. We are talking about X-Men 97. Series just wrapped up recently. Both of us have watched it. I am an X-Men original enjoyer, fond memories of watching the original TV cartoon with my mom when I was a child. Nick, for some reason, hasn't watched them. We got two
I don't know
different
if I
perspectives.
I may have watched it. If I did, I generally don't remember if I did or not.
Well,
I'm
that
not
means you didn't watch it because I'm sure you remember.
I'm
But
just
yeah,
saying.
we're talking about X-Men 97. When it was announced, it was a big deal. I mean, the 90s X-Men cartoon is beloved. It's probably what sparked your interest in X-Men if you are around our age. It's just it's renowned for a reason. And so when they announced that they were bringing it back with a lot of the original team and a lot of the original voice actors, I mean, I personally was over the moon excited, with a dash of cautiousness, but still over the moon excited. Then they released the trailer, and the art style was different, but it was familiar. My only big complaint was they nerfed Rogue's ass. I don't know why you would do that. Then I watched the show and it's the original voice actor, and I'm like, okay, all's forgiven. So, if you couldn't tell from my excitement, I love this show.
I mean, the show's fantastic. I actually didn't even really know about it until people started talking about it when the show was airing. Because I just kind of stopped paying attention to Marvel a couple years ago. Just superhero stuff in general. But another friend was talking about it and just how deep the show was going. I'm like, this sounds really good. So I binged it. I caught up right before episode 9 aired, but I binged the rest of the series in like 2 days
Yeah.
to get to that point.
I I watched the first couple episodes and then I held off and then binged the rest of it when episode 10 was released. So, um not for any particular reason. I just get caught up in
Live.
doing other things. Sitting down and watching something's kind of hard for me sometimes. So, uh but X-Men is beloved by me. It's one of my favorite comic books series. X-Men, like I said, the 90s cartoons, one of my favorite cartoons. I have fond memories watching it with my mom. Shout out to my mom. Her favorite character is Gambit. So, um, which is an excellent choice. But so yeah, so when they announced it was coming back, I was on board. I was like, let's do this, let's go. And I definitely was rewarded.
Oh
I
yeah.
was telling Nick before we started recording, I think this is the best thing that Marvel has done when since being owned by Disney. And I can definitively say that. I love it. Infinity War and Endgame. Love No Way Home. Love Homecoming. But how you capture the essence of something that is 30 years old and just do it so perfectly while also pushing it forward in both visuals and content just blows my mind. Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom's levels of just blowing my mind of taking something that is near perfect and making it better.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really recall the original if I ever watched it, but this one it blew me away how good this is. It doesn't pull punches in terms of topics. The X Men are an allegory for very specific things, and they hone in on it hard, and they are
Yes.
not subtle about it. But that's to the show's strength.
Yes, yes. X-Men have always been an allegory for some of the world's most difficult, but most important topics, and the show is no exception. Even playing to some of the extremes as well. I mean, by the end of the series, I mean you don't want to tell Magneto that he's wrong after the events of the series. Um, and you're like, I'm with you, I understand, but and those buts keep getting harder and harder to say every time
Mhm.
that you have to. um for me personally, the X-Men 97 specifically tackled a lot of really fun X-Men classic moments.
Mhm.
I mean, Madeline Pryor versus Jean Grey, who's who, when did we get switched? Anything with Mr. Sinister is so much fun. Um, I really like all of the finale. I like seeing Forge. Forge is one of the, I think he's underrated X-Man. He doesn't get used a lot. I think it's cool to see him and Aurora go on their journey. Um, yeah, I can't sing its praises enough. I really
No.
can't. It's 10 brilliant episodes. Cannot wait for the next season.
No, they were agreeing with the listening season. I think pretty sure they said they already have it written in. Mostly, I don't know how far along they are, but like they're pretty far in production on it. They're not like an early production on it.
Yeah, no, they've already greenlit it. They've already said writing is underway. I wouldn't be surprised if it came out maybe towards the end of next year or so.
Mhm.
They'll definitely want a quick turnaround. This has been pretty much universally loved. I mean, I think this is kind of the injection of quality that Marvel really needed on Disney Plus
Mhm.
specifically to get people back in, because I mean I'm a huge Marvel fan, as anybody that knows me knows, and I've been out of the MCU stuff for quite a long time. I still haven't seen What If season 2 and Loki season 2, and I loved the season 1s of those because I'm just
Mhm.
so fatigued of all of the stuff. And so it sounds like they're finally starting to take some of my advice and slow down and make sure that the quality is increasing. And I think X-Men 97 is a stamp of on that, because
Yeah,
it is
definitely. I mean,
brilliant.
a lot of things go around saying there's superhero fatigue and stuff like that. And I don't think superhero fatigue is a true thing. I think people are just tired of mediocre to bad superhero stuff. Because looking at how this is received, how Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is received, there is still a hunger for good superhero
Yes.
stuff. And I said I've barely paid attention to Marvel at all. I've paid less attention to Marvel than you have. This pulled me back in, and here we are.
Yep. And we got more mutants later to come with Deadpool and Wolverine. So it's like it's perfect timing. This is, I hope that Disney and Marvel continue to ride this wave of quality, and continue forth, because I mean, you have put yourself on a pedestal again with X-Men 97, 100%. It is downright brilliant. Um, and I mean, you're gonna know a little bit less of this, but like in the original show, I mean, they every single like major supervillain that you would want in an X-Men cartoon gets tackled. I mean, you see Magneto, you see Juggernaut, you see Omega Red, you see Mr. Sinister, you see a dozen and a half freaking Sentinels. I mean, you get your Scarlet Witch and your Quicksilver. You get Shi'ar versus the Kree. I mean, every major X-Men like plot point that you could ever want from an X-Men show, you get. And so, I mean, even like Apocalypse, and they did the Phoenix Saga as well. So, like, them announcing 97 is coming back, well, X-Men 97, like, you're already like asking for it, because like, where you go? What do you do? And they did it. There's still plenty more storylines that they can do. Controversial one at the end there that we'll talk about, that I know you didn't pick up on, but I definitely picked up on. Um, but yeah, it's. I mean, in a series that does Days of Future Past, the Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, Shi'ar versus Kree, uh, assassination of Professor X, and he actually gets taken to be Lalandra's consort. Like, that's all X-Men. That's all the X-Men right there. Like, you got it. Henry Gyrick, fucking Sentinels, you got it. And you're still saying, nope, we got more in the tank. Let's go. Round two. Here we go. They brought in some modern X-Men stuff. They brought in some classic X-Men stuff, some tropes, little couple hidden nods to the fans, couple new
Mhm.
X-Men, bada bing, bada boom. We got a new series, ladies and gentlemen, and they just nailed it. And I can't stop geeking out about it, because I'm like, how did you do this? How did you do this?
No, I
Even
think
even down to Magneto's fucking suit when he's part of the X-Men. Like that was his first I'm a good guy suit. And it's like nailed it. Perfect. I'm right at home. Cozy in a blanket.
yeah, I could
Go
have by
watch the
myself.
show.
No, no, like this is if you don't have Disney Plus, this is a reason to get it and watch it. So yeah, there's really no other thing. Just watch X-Men '97. Even if you're checked out as Marvel like I was, watch it.
And then like in I can't remember if it's episode 9 when they put on all of their classic
Hmm.
90s X-Men suits and shit. I was like, "Oh, oh,
They use
uh.
nostalgia as it should be, not as the focus, but just as little Easter eggs.
Like if you know it, you're going to be like, "Yes. Excellent.
Hmm.
Awesome." They don't like draw attention to it like, "Oh, look what suit Wolverine's putting on." Uh. It's like, "No, Wolverine puts on his yellow and brown suit and you're like, "Fuck yeah. Hell yeah." And yeah, then bad stuff happens. But that moment, you're like, hell yeah. So
Yeah.
what we do here with these kind of reviews, we have a spoiler free section where we just typically talk about our impressions. That's what this is now. We're both glowing about it. We will get into spoiler territory. So what we'd like to do is just give our final review so that you can watch this section and go into it spoiler free, which I think you should. And
Yes,
if you haven't
absolutely.
watched the 90s show, go watch the 90s shows first. It's worth the time investment. It is a little cringy by today's standards, just kind of with the animation style and stuff, but it is definitely well worth it. Makes some moments in 97 a little bit more heartwarming when you have the other stuff in there as well. But Nick, go ahead. What's your rating out of 10? Hit me with it.
I'm gonna go with a 9.5 out of 10.
Mine's a 10 out of 10. Mine's a 10 out of 10. They fucking nailed it. Fucking nailed it. 9.75 aggregate score from the Games and Culture Show. Um, they just nailed it. They nailed it. They nailed every single second of every single episode. I mean, even you said that episode 4 where they're in the video game was like the weak point. I love Mojo, so it wasn't a weak point for me.
That's
Um,
fair.
and kind of to teach this isn't a spoiler, by the way, but to teach Jubilee some new adaptations for her powers was a cool little segment. Since Jubilee was kind of the main character for the first part of the original series, it was nice to see her back in that kind of spotlight, but also mentoring Roberto. So even in the arguably the worst episode, it's still such high quality that
Hmm.
it can't be
Yeah,
anything else but a 10.
yeah, and that's still high quality, but I don't. I was a little taken out. Like this seems we're doing all this stuff. Now we're doing this. Okay, back to that. Like
Yeah.
okay, so still
Uh,
taken out for me at least.
And that's fair. So let's this is your warning, spoiler warning. We will be spoiling it. We're not going to hit on every single episode, but we will be talking about things in broad. We will be fine tunedly combing through the last 3 episodes because they're brilliant. But this is your last warning. If you have not seen the show, make like Spider-Man and do a backflip away from your computer and go watch X-Men the 90 show and then 97 and come back and hear our thoughts on everything and see if you agree. But this is now your time to leave, pause the video, watch the series, come back. But this is where we will be talking about spoilers in 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Okay. Nikki boy, where would you like to start?
I mean, we're not gonna go through every episode, but we kind of have to start a little with one just so we can set things up and get to where we need to be. Um, but I think obviously I'm speaking from a point of I didn't really remember the original if I watched it at all. So I did think it was interesting. I wasn't aware like Professor X was gone. Where I'm like, what the frick? Professor X is assassinated, huh?
Yes.
So Cyclops leading the team was pretty good. I found it interesting how everyone was still kind of at odds with him a little bit just because like new leader. Um, and Wolverine could also tell he was struggling, Cyclops was struggling with some other things because Jean was pregnant and everything about leaving. So a lot of the tension was there of how to go about it. I thought that was pretty well done.
Yep. all ripped right out of the comics. Pretty much anytime Professor X isn't around, Cyclops is left in charge. And even these days in the comics, as it stands like right now, Cyclops is the leader of the X-Men. That's just
Mhm,
what he is. Even with Charles around, he's just the de facto leader.
mhm.
But ending with Magneto being in Charles's will.
Yeah, that was the shock. Like, oh yeah, like when he's like my X Men. Like, what do you mean my X Men? He left the X Men to you? Huh?
Wasn't at all shocked to me. It happens so many times in the in the comics.
I know I read the comics, so this is all like, what the
Yeah,
hell are you thinking?
yeah. And true to the comics, I mean it's exactly what you would expect. Charles wants Magneto to see the other side in hopes that he will better himself and ally himself with Charles's cause. I mean they're two brothers that are divided because they want the same thing. They just have different means of getting it, and that's what leads them to be estranged.
I do
Him.
think the
Oh,
go ahead. I
go ahead.
say
No.
we're moving to the second episode. Like, I think this is probably one of the strongest episodes of the series because the tension of the UN realizing, oh, Magneto's in charge of the X Men. That's not good. Um, but Magneto seemingly willing to show return a new leaf. Um, in the scene in the UN when they're being attacked by one of the extremists, I thought it was really good how Magneto was drawing parallels to like yes, these are things I did, but here's what else you guys did too. Where no one's
Yes.
innocent here.
Yes. Yes. That is a speech that he has made multiple times in the comics as well. Um, and I really like episode 2. I think it is one of the stronger ones in the early part of the season where, um, there's this. I just really like how genuine Magneto is. Like it's
Mhm.
not seemingly genuine. Like he is genuine. He's like I'm gonna try to ally myself with Charles and find a
Yeah,
better way. Genosha at this point is thriving. Let's see about finding a better way.
yeah,
And
he's not doing it for like any ulterior motive. Like I'm going to secretly do this and do something in the background. Like he's genuinely trying to try, but he says he has a lot of like cold lines where you're just kind of like, oh shit, that's a good. He's
yeah,
spitting. Um, when he by the end of the episode he takes part of the UN judges like takes them out of there and takes them into the sky with the extremist who's attacking them. You think he's gonna kill the extremist and he doesn't. And he basically says, I could have, but I'm not going to. And just literally tells him, like, don't make me let you down. Like,
yeah. And I think how genuine he is in those moments is what makes the fall so much more impactful and dramatic.
mm,
Um, moving into episode 3. This is when we start to get the Madeline Pryor versus Jean Grey. Madeline Pryor, if you don't know, clone of Jean Grey made by Mr. Sinister. At some point, she is swapped, but has all of Jean Grey's memories. So she truly believes that she is Jean Grey. She marries Scott. They have their first child together. His name is Nathan, aka Cable. This is all orchestrated by Mr. Sinister's to take Nathan, having both Jean Grey and Scott Summers genes, taking him and basically making him like the perfect host for all of the chaos that Mr. Sinister likes to impose. Mr. Sinister, if you don't know, he can take mutants' powers and put them in other people. And so he's basically gonna load up Nathan to be like the ultimate being, essentially,
yeah.
culminating in Mr. Sinister like taking over, basically. So Madeline has Madeline as Jean Grey still at this point has Nathan. Mr. Sinister attacks, takes Nathan, but also reveals that Madeline is the clone. And so she goes kind of batshit crazy because it's hard not to when you're revealed to be a clone of somebody. Coincidentally, Jean Grey shows up at the door as well to further complicate things. This is also kind of another point where we see Magneto being a hero. He comes with Cyclops, Bishop, and Morph to confront Madeline and now known as the Goblin Queen. That's her villain name, and to get Nathan back. And so they fight the Goblin Queen. She wins. She beats all of them down because she's essentially Jean Grey. Jean Grey is an Omega level mutant
Yeah.
with the best telekinetic powers and super strong telepathic powers. And without the intervention of Jean tapping into her telepathy and the link to the Goblin Queen, she kind of breaks the spell on the Goblin Queen. They go and rescue Nathan, but unfortunately, he's already infected with the techno-organic virus that we all know Cable has been infected with. Just like in the comics, they send him into the future so that he can have the best chance of surviving. We all know Cable's backstory. It was already shown to us in the original show. Well, not his background, but we already know Cable. Cable makes an appearance in the original show, and you're like, who's that guy? But if you're a comic fan, you're like, I know that guy. But now we get his origin story, which was great to see.
Sad part is I didn't know any of that. I didn't know Madeline Pryor was a thing. I didn't know Cable was, the son of Cyclops until the show. I'm like, oh, that's how. Okay.
You just like the lovely effects. You said, ooh, shiny green fire, and that's all that it took for you. And so the episode ends with Madeline, heartbroken of having to send Nathan away, but also not knowing who she is. Is she Jean Grey, or is she something else? When were they switch? Neither of them know. Madeline takes the hit, and she's like, my name is Madeline Pryor. This is who I am, and I have to walk my own path. And she leaves Jean Grey to basically rejoin the X-Men. But her relationship with Scott now is tumultuous, because when did they get switched? How much did this Jean actually do with Scott? Because it definitely wasn't have a baby. And so I like that plot point of like these two are set in stone as lovers, especially in this series. It's nice to see them have something to fight for again, since romance in anything is kind of weird, because as a viewer you want to see them fight for each other, but it's just so easy to be like, oh, they're in love, that's the end of it. And so it's nice to see them walk that line of having to rebuild the relationship. And it also draws parallels to Rogue and Gambit's relationship, which is crumbling. So you have one being rebuilt, one crumbling. It's revealed later on in the series that Magneto and Rogue have a romantic entanglement. It teases it at this point, and Gambit finds out about it, which is indeed from the comics as well, if you didn't know.
I figured at this point most of the things that happen in the show are from the comics.
Yes, it is truly faithful. We briefly talked about episode 4. Jubilee and Roberto, aka Sunspot, get sucked into a video game by Mojo, who is this interdimensional entertainment dude who's always looking for the next big thing, and he gets his power off of viewer engagement. So even before influencers were a thing, he was an influencer.
Oh God. Terrifying.
And so, like I said before, I think it's a cool thing to have Jubilee back at the forefront, because she kind of was the main character in the first one for at least the first little bit. She was an allegory for the viewer being new to this mutant world, just like she was new to the mutant world. So it's cool to see her back in the spotlight again, but still also have development. Her coming of age and learning more about her powers and taking a driving seat, pun intended, based off the themes of the episode in the X-Men. The joke is that she wanted to fly the jet, but she's not old enough to fly the jet. But her being more involved with the X-Men is nice to see. So I think right here, I think we should talk about Storm and Forge, and then we talk about Genosa into the final episode, since they're closer together. So in episode 2, Storm gets hit with a blast from a gun that's made out of the depolarization collars that are used to enslave mutants, and it rids her of her powers. So she leaves the X-Men and kind of wanders. She's found in a bar by Forge, who's also an X-Man. His mutant powers allow him to basically just be like an engineering genius. He can work on any kind of machines and make them work and stuff. So he wants to help Rogue find her powers back. They've always had kind of a romantic will they won't they in the comics, so it was nice. The second that they started pairing up, I was like, oh, cool, excellent. Also, quick hit too. She's in the bar. When she's in the bar, she's in her 80s leather getup with the leather vest and the leather pants. I thought that was a cool thing because that's when her mohawk actually started. So I was happy to see the mohawk back, but then when they put her in her black leather, I was like, yeah, they hitting all the right notes. So Forge takes Storm to his home, and over the next like few months, basically, he's trying to figure out ways to get her powers back. She is then haunted by this demon who I'm not sure who it is. I don't remember it. I think it's some kind of Native American demon because Forge is a Native American.
Yeah,
I'm not.
that was
I'm.
clear.
It didn't ring any bells for me. Maybe I'm just overlooking something. But the demon basically taunts Storm for being powerless, and then it bites Forge and infects him with this poison. And so she has to overcome some of her own demons, like her extreme fear of claustrophobia. Um, basically to get him this plant that will heal the poison. And it's your average inner discovery story. Her powers
Mhm.
actually weren't gone. She was just afraid to use them type thing, and then she gets them back and everything's fine. Not to say that there weren't some really great moments. Forge and Storm's interactions are always solid. They have a really poignant fight where it's revealed that Forge did some work for the U.S. government, who doesn't have the kindest view of mutants up until that point, and so that kind of she's always been at the forefront of mutant activism. So that was a very poignant kind of thing to be upset about, and I thought that was really well done. Overall, just kind of a general like I got my powers back story,
Yeah,
but it
wasn't
was done
bad.
well enough.
Yeah, it was done pretty good. I mean, not much more to say than that. I thought it was an interesting arc. I do wish it wasn't so like cliche. Like I just said, oh, my powers weren't really gone all the time. I just said, like, I wish there was a bit more like you did get actually hit with something that was supposed to take it away. So I wish it was a bit more like we did actually find a way to fix it. Then it was all inside, but whatever, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. So let's get into the back half of the excuse me of the episodes. So that was episode 6. We have episode 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're gonna go back to 5. Like I said, I broke up that because 5 directly leads into the last 4 episodes in a very major way. So I figured we'd cover the Storm stuff since it happens simultaneously to what's going on in episode 5.
Yeah,
So they get the X-Men get news of Genosha becoming in a mutant paradise. This
they're
time for
being
real.
and they're being told that they will be accepted into a UN member state.
Yes. Because after Charles Xavier's assassination, um, the world is trying to take a more positive stance on mutants. So a step towards that is letting them into the UN, since Genosha is the mutant nation. And so Gambit, Rogue, and Magneto all go to Genosha because a Magneto is part of the council, and B, they just wanted to go, and so Magneto gets asked by the Mutant Council, which also has some familiar faces on it. Emma Frost being one of them, the White Queen herself, as well as Madeline Pryor. I think Sebastian Shaw was in there. There's a good amount of mutants in there. Moira McTaggart was part of it, even though she's just a Homo sapien. She's always been a staunch defender of mutant kind, so it makes sense why she's
Mm.
there. And the council basically asks Magneto to be mutant kind's leader, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
The UN does not like that because he has killed people before.
Yeah, and I
So,
think it also leads
oh,
into one of his other kind of cold lines in the series that, again, drawing a lot of allegories to real life they use. One of the UN lady, comes out and confronts him like, I can't believe they would, let a terrorist become leader. And he just kind of listens and goes, "Yep, you let your leaders become terrorist."
yes.
And it's like, damn,
Yep.
he went for the throat there.
Nail, head, bam.
Yeah.
um, and so the UN has problems with this, and Magneto also has problems with it. He doesn't want to lead mutant kind.
No,
Um,
I was like,
Go
he
ahead.
he does see some problems with it himself, just because he knows what he has done. So he does. He, in a weird sense, he does agree with the point that the UN member lady was making, but he doesn't want to hear it from her, which justifiably so.
Yeah, yeah. So he asks Rogue to lead with him, basically. Um, Kind of also like cementing their relationship, essentially. And Rogue agrees, much to Gambit's dismay. And in the coolest Gambit moment, for now, he basically just takes the news on the chin, says that he'll always love her, and always support her if this is what she really wants. And basically just ends the conversation with, if we got to be friends, then we got to be friends. And it's like, oh my freaking god. I know that Magneto's this white-haired dreamboat, but come on, the Cajun card master himself, like, come on. Yeah, it was really it's really true to Gambit's character of just like,
No, but
life's
they also
gonna
do a good,
deal you some bad hands, and sometimes you just gotta play them.
and so they also do a good job of making Rogue seem reasonable and why she's making this decision, because I mean, she says this point blank, Magneto can actually touch her, like her powers do not affect him. So for living her whole life that way, where she just couldn't be touched or touch anybody, you can understand why she's leaning towards doing that.
Yes, and pursuing Magneto as a not only a romantic partner, but also just helping out mutant kind in general.
Yeah.
This is also where we kind of get some more of the backstory as well of Rogue. If you didn't know this, Rogue originally was a member of the Brotherhood of Mutants. Magneto took her in because Mystique was kind of a mother figure to Rogue, um, and that's kind of how she got her super strength. Is because she stole it from Captain Marvel. Because
Huh.
Yeah, Captain
I didn't know.
Marvel confronted the Brotherhood of Mutants, and Rogue grabbed a hold of Captain Marvel for so long that she basically permanently stole Captain Marvel's powers. That's why she can fly and has super strength and stuff like that, because it all comes from Captain Marvel.
I did not know that. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
Carol.
interesting.
For most of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, Carol Danvers was powerless.
Huh.
Yeah,
Well,
because
you know.
Rogue stole him. Um,
Huh.
but we don't see that. We see kind of just her learning about her powers and coming to the realization that she can touch Magneto, and that's how the romance started. But then she couldn't abide by the Brotherhood's um way of doing things, and that's why she ultimately left. Um, but yeah, so we get this dance scene of Magneto and Rogue in the club. I don't know why there's a club at a diplomat meeting, but hey, whatever. It's
On that.
Genosa. Mutants party on different levels. Um, and then shit hits the fan. Madeline Pryor steps outside. Cable time travels in and tries to save Madeline, his mom, and can't. He gets ripped back through time basically as a nuclear explosion hits. And the war has been declared on Genosha. this absolutely massive master mold tri-sentinel scarab thing attacks Genosha, releasing sentinels, having nuclear blasts, uh, and all of this stuff, um, killing thousands of mutants. And so for Rogue and Magneto and Gambit, who are shown to be, and Nightcrawler, who are shown to be like the only survivors essentially, because that first blast hit the where the diplomats were, so basically the whole council was wiped out. At least as far as we know, it's up to them four to beat this Tri Sentinel. For you that doesn't know, the three heads, that's a Tri Sentinel. Um, Typically, they've come up many times. Spider-Man had to have the cosmic force imbued in him to beat one, just so you know. So they cause problems for everybody. But this
I'm
one was
glad one
like
of us
this
has
like
comments.
beetle thing. It was really horrific. It was really tough to watch. Because this was not the heroes win the day.
No,
This was a
you were
there's gonna be some
blindsided,
losses.
and there were a lot of them.
Yeah, so they fan out. Nightcrawler is charged with trying to save individuals and bring them back to this safe point that they had kind of like rallied on. Magneto is fighting the Tri Sentinel, and he tells Rogue and Gambit to go help some of the Morlocks that are down by the bay, basically. And so Rogue and Gambit go do that. They rescue the Morlocks. They rendezvous back with Magneto, still fighting the Tri Sentinel, holding his own. But then it comes to the task of protecting these Morlocks, and that's when Magneto gets locked up, essentially. Um, and so he gets hit with this gigantic blast that he can't defend about. And so he is presumed dead because nothing's left.
Yeah,
Um,
in that moment, he's like, because the beam's hitting him, but he's using his magnetic forces to try and repel it. But I mean, it's a war of attrition. He's not going to win. But there's other mutants with him,
yeah,
and they know he's losing that fight. But there's nowhere they can go, so they're scared.
yeah,
Um, and this also what drives Magneto to another fall, basically. But you don't blame him, because there's a mutant with him that he saves earlier
hmm
and tells him, don't be afraid. And that mutant's now with him again, and he says the same thing, don't be afraid. And then,
yeah. Prior to the lights going out, though, he uses also his magnetic forces to hold back Rogue and Gambit, who are trying to intervene. So Magneto's gone. Rogue is pretty distraught. She goes and tries to attack the Tri Sentinel head on, gets knocked out of the fight, and it's up to Gambit. And Gambit says, "I got one ace left in my hand. Let's do it." And in the coolest Gambit moment ever,
mhm. Oh
he
yeah,
charges at it head on. And at first, the Tri Sentinel doesn't think that he's a threat until he starts being a threat, and so Tri Sentinel takes out this like tentacle arm, like pincer thing, stabs him, brings him up to eye level, and basically says something along the lines of "You're insignificant. You couldn't beat me even if you tried." Gambit laughs it off and says, "No, I got you exactly where I want you." And so Gambit's mutant power is he can imbue anything with kinetic energy that explodes. And so with this pincer like impaling him, he grabs a hold of it and charges the entire sentinel with his kinetic energy and causes a mass explosion that kills him, but wins the day at the heaviest of costs. Um, thousands, thousands of mutants die in this exchange of a seemingly unprovoked attack.
hmm
And so where the episode leaves off is pretty much
uh,
no survivors except for Rogue and assorted others.
yeah. They're trying to find survivors in the rubble. That's how few there are,
Yes.
and more. The episode just kind of ends with news reports going on the globe and showing. 'Cause there's our X-Men back at the mansion. Don't know what's going on. They're just seeing it on the TV, and they're just like, there's a collective shock and just like, oh my god.
Yep. And a galaxy away, Charles Xavier, Professor X, is with Lilandra, his great love of his life, Queen of the Shi'ar, who are like these bird space people, just so you're aware. They're bird space people.
You can tell
Um,
that.
and so he's being her consort. He's left Magneto and Cyclops, the X-Men. He's content with being his the king, basically, to her queen.
Hmm.
And so as he's using his telepathy to convince them that he's powerful enough to be king, he gets the telepathic wavelength of loss, kind of like Yoda in the prequels when Order 66 is out. He kind of just like topples over from the grief that's being felt. Kind of the same thing. He has a vision of Gambit being roasted and all of these mutants dying, and so that's what prompts him to go back to Earth, because he will be a part of the finale. So that's episode 5. 6 is Storm getting her powers back. Episode 7 is where we have the fallout of the attack on Genosha. Um, Rogue is absolutely beside herself because Magneto is dead, so she is trying to find Bolivar Trask, who is the inventor of the Sentinels. Because if there's a Sentinel, obviously somehow he's involved. So she's
She's on a war path.
on a war path. So she's hunting. She's hunting Gyrick, who is a contact of Trask. Um, and causes so much damage that Captain America has to get involved on the US government's behalf. And so that's kind of how you know that, okay, the US government's got something going on here. Why are they protecting Gyrick, who is linked to now a genocidal maniac? And Captain America lets her know, like, actually, this is done by somebody else. Somebody's pulling the strings of the US government, the UN, everything. I'm trying to get on the trail too, but you can't go around ruining military bases. And in what I think is a really cool Rogue moment, she takes Cap's shield, throws it through the roof, and kind of basically says, "Fuck you! I'm gonna find him. You can either help me or get the fuck out of my way."
I mean, she's 100% right to do it at that moment because both were true to their characters. I mean, I understand what Captain America was doing it that way, but there are some times you just can't be the good cop, and
Yes.
this is not one of those moments.
Yes. So at the same time, the X-Men are also tracking Bolivar Trask, and they basically both Rogue and the X-Men find him at the same time and know where to go. And so they confront him in Madripoor, which is outside Japan, for you that don't know. Very big in Wolverine lore. It's kind of where he goes to hang out in all of his solo adventures. But to describe it to anything else, it's almost like Mos Eisley. It's a hive of scum and villainy. So it's a very neon-esque lit city, kind of like Night City a little bit, just not in 2077. And they go and they find him, and he's in this facility that's got all of these like really advanced looking Sentinels that look like normal humans. And so that's when the gears start turning that, oh yeah, something else is definitely going on. And so they confront Trask. Rogue holds him over the edge of the building and says, "Give me the information. Why did you do this? Where did this come from? All this stuff." And he's like, "I don't know. I actually didn't do it. It's not me. I didn't do it." And she was like, "Okay, it's not the answer I wanted." So she drops him. She makes that full step into what we deem as villainy, and he doesn't fall. He comes back up as a Sentinel Prime. Well, Omega Sentinel. And so this is a little bit Days of Future Past, a little bit of future problems, kind of like with Bishop. The Sentinels take over in Bishop's time. The Omega Sentinels is one of the reasons why in a different timeline. So it's cool to see Omega Sentinels back. They can be anybody. They can be anything. They're perfectly designed to counteract mutants. Just like in the Days of Future Past Fox movie. Except not as like gargoyle-y, stony. They actually look like humans and stuff. And so they beat Trask, um, and are like, okay, this isn't
What's
good.
happening?
And it's also revealed at that time too that Magneto's actually alive and
Hmm.
held captive by the true villain of this season, the one that orchestrated everything, Bastion, who is a pretty, I wouldn't say obscure, but he's not like a main like X-Men villain. He's pretty cool. His ability is that he can talk to machines. Basically, he has machine telepathy.
Okay, I wasn't sure if he was a new character for the show or if he was an actual character.
No, he's an
Well,
actual
from comics.
character. He's most associated with Nimrod, who is like Sentinel perfected, basically.
Hmm.
Um, they even show Nimrod in the opening like scroll of images, which I thought he was. I definitely thought he was going to appear, but he never did. He never took his Nimrod form. But anyways, basically, Bastion is going to uh, wipe out mutants because turning people into Omega Sentinels is the next step of evolution past mutants, essentially. And he feels as though mutants shafted him throughout his life. So we have the pieces in play. Now it's time for the giant finale. And so Bastion calls out to all of his Omega Sentinels that are hidden just everywhere, and he sets them on attack. So mutants all across the world now have to fight these Omega Sentinels. And then that brings us into our 3-part finale, Tolerance's Extinction. And so basically, this all of episode 8 is just the X-Men and other mutants fighting off the Omega
Sentinels.
Sentinels. Yeah. Um, the mansion gets destroyed. Um, uh, what else happens in episode 8? I'm trying like
There's,
I'm drawing a blank.
I mean, it's mostly that Professor X comes back at the very end of the
Yes.
episode. Like, am I too late? I'm like, buddy, you are way late.
Yeah, and I also like how fact like no, like really not
No
anybody's
one's
happy to
happy to see
see
him.
him. Yeah,
No, I did like the fact that's how they handle it. Him coming back and people going like, "Where the fuck were you? Why the fuck did you leave?" Like, no one is happy to see him
why
at
did you leave
all.
the X-Men to Magneto?
Yeah, like they all have questions for him. Like, this is and what's good is he doesn't try and act like he was blameless. He realizes like, oh, I really screwed up, because this does come to a head because now that he's back in sort of in charge of the X-Men again, being kind of the voice of their voice of reason, I guess you could say. Um, Magneto, he goes to challenge Magneto. Magneto's alive, and Magneto's pissed off that he's still alive, and um, it really, because of what Professor X did, ditching everybody in a sense. Magneto just doesn't want to hear it from him anymore.
Yeah,
Like, you ditched everybody and then asked me to walk your own path. We're kind of in episode 9 now.
yeah,
And Peter just asked him, okay, I did things your way when I thought you were dead. And this is where we got us.
yeah.
So you're gonna walk mine now? Because we did it your way. And through that entire conversation, I'm going, I can't argue against Magneto.
Yep.
There's no argument against him. He wants to destroy the world, but
The world kind of deserves it at this point. And
yeah.
also too, sentiment towards mutants is now changing back to the negative because the X-Men lied about what happened to Charles. People feel lied to now. They feel deceived. They feel like it was a play for sympathy. And so now the sentiment is also again changing back towards the negative for mutant kind. And so yeah, Professor X leaving and coming back has caused a lot of problems. And yeah, Magneto's not blameless. I mean, you just watch thousands of your own people die.
I mean,
Um, and so
I'm pretty sure. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure one character tells Professor X like it would have been better if you just didn't come back. I'm not sure. I think someone said that. I'm not
someone
100%
definitely
sure.
did say it. I want to say it was like Cyclops, because
Or Wolverine.
Cyclops
I
was
think.
really upset with Professor X when he came back.
Yeah. Like
Uh,
there was even a moment where he reaches out to a handshake. Like, I'm sorry, and he just walks past him. Doesn't even acknowledge it.
He kind of says like, what's done is done. We have to beat Magneto and Bastion to save the world. Like that's all he was worried about. And so yeah, so we got Bastion with his Omega Sentinels, and Magneto gets let free from Bastion's control, puts back on the red and purple helmet, so we know we're in evil mode now, and disrupts the magnetic field around the Earth, basically causing an EMP across the Earth. There's no electricity, no nothing, and basically saying the Earth's on a timer now, 12 hours, and we descend into chaos, and the evolutionary code is what wins. Basically saying like, if you're not a mutant, shit, man, you don't have the wings to survive. Sucks to be you. And so the X-Men have to stop both camps. So they split in half. Jean Grey, Beast, Nightcrawler, Storm, and Forge go to confront Bastion, and the rest go to confront Magneto, who is now in his Asteroid M Castle Fortitude. And so on the Bastion side, we'll cover that first because I feel like that's the Cable's also there for the Bastion side. I feel like that's the ending that kind of wraps up in a bow really nicely.
Yeah.
Mr. Sinister is also revealed to be working for Bastion, and turns Cable against Jean Grey. And even though Jean Grey is not his actual mother, kind of plays that mother role of like, you tried your best to save your mother, let's continue to fight the forces of evil. And Cable almost kills her, and forces her to rely on the Phoenix powers again, which is an excellent representation of the Phoenix. I just want to point this out. Like, after having the Phoenix for the first time, Jean Grey always has access to the Phoenix Force in some form. Like, she's connected to it, so it does help her out in situations where she needs it, which I think is really, really cool. Like, obviously,
No, that was a great moment.
Yeah,
it was a great moment. I did these cool moments in the fight where like Morph's trying to trick Bastion, by posing as Mr. Sinister, and he doesn't fall for it because he's just like, he knew like Mr. Sinister would not be thinking of others. He's too self-serving, so I know it's not him.
Yeah,
but that was kind of funny. And then there's an argument when she becomes the Phoenix, the game kind of pops back up. I was questioning like Mr. Sinister, like, I'm gonna challenge her, like, dude, you know how powerful the Phoenix Force is. Why the hell are you challenging? And you're basically dead at this point. You knew that was not going to end any other way. Why attempt that?
Yeah, it's an almighty force. Like, I'm glad that they also didn't use it as the resolution to the entire thing as well.
That I'm glad too, that because the Phoenix Force is so powerful.
She comes to help Cable break out of it and to kind of put Mr. Sinister out of place, and then she reverts back to Jean Grey. So instead of like taking out Bastion and taking out Magneto, no, it's just for that single moment.
It would have been too easy to make it the Deus Ex Machina.
Yes. But yeah, so they put this like inhibitor crown thing on to Bastion, and he can't control his Omega Sentinels anymore, so they're all, and it cuts his connection, so he can never like control them again. Which I have a small point that I noticed when I watched it. There's Sentinels that are flying and they fall after the connection's cut.
Yeah,
how do those people get back down to Earth safely? Like, I think those are just casualties at that point.
They did.
But I noticed, I was like, oh, that's not.
Welcome to the Marvel problem. There's so many casualties we're just not paying attention to.
Exactly.
Like in the first Avengers in New York City, like, a lot of people died.
Yeah,
we don't question it.
But yeah, that it kind of ends the fight with Bastion. I think he escapes, doesn't he? If I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, he escapes and he evolves again.
Yes. Yeah, he will eventually become Nimrod. So up on Asteroid M, we have the fight against Magneto. Prior to the fight, Rogue and Sunspot join Magneto because they're just done with the fighting. Gambit's dead. Roberto, Sunspot's mom, gave him up to the Omega Sentinel, so they're just like, we're done with humanity. So it's Rogue, Sunspot, and Magneto versus Cyclops, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Jubilee. I think that's it. No, Jean Grey's with
Jean's on Earth.
yeah. So it's Wolverine,
Um,
Cyclops, Jubilee,
Nightcrawler.
and Nightcrawler. That's right.
Yep, Nightcrawler.
So
I do
one,
want to point out though, why does this keep happening? Why do you send Wolverine to fight Magneto?
it's just
Like,
the point.
stop it! Like,
They sent him for the result of what happens, because that happens in the comics. Like this is a key moment for Wolverine.
I mean, I get it. Just like, still, like, you would think comics like, oh wait, no, this guy literally bends metal. Okay, we're not going to send Wolverine to fight him. That's literally his hard counter. Wolverine will stay on Earth and do this.
Yeah, Professor X is also there. That's right. Professor X is also there, and so this is a no holds bar fight, with a couple exceptions. Roberto and Jubilee fight each other, and they're definitely pulling their punches, even going like, "Oh, are you okay? I didn't mean to do that." And Jubilee going like, "This is a fight. This is what's supposed to happen." But it is all on for Charles Xavier. Charles Xavier has decided to take some steps in Magneto's direction, and the plan is to get Magneto's helmet off, which repels telepathy, so that Professor X can basically possess him and make him use his powers to revert it, which is a hard line stance for Professor Xavier. Like he doesn't like this could cause Magneto to be brain dead. This could cause ramifications for him. Like, but that's the level that he's going to. So very, very Magneto-esque in his resolve.
He also doesn't want to do it because he knows he's violating another person's will. But at this point, he feels he has no other options because Magneto is refusing to listen to him. Which again, you can't blame him for it because, but at this point, Professor X doesn't deserve to be listened to.
Yes,
but even though he's technically right.
Yes. So the fight goes on. And they get the helmet off, and Magneto becomes like super pissed off and rips the adamantium out of Wolverine, which happens in the comics. This Wolverine without the adamantium is typically called the feral Wolverine because he lets his hair go a little bit, and only has his bone claws, and he's fucking insane. Because the adamantium kept in some of his demons. You know what I'm saying? So that's gonna be exciting to see next season. But that's the tipping point for Professor X. Professor X is like, okay, I'm doing it. Let's go. And so he possesses Magneto's mind, reverts it, and you can tell that something is wrong. Both of them are unconscious. They're inside Magneto's psyche. Things are going bad. And they're basically like Professor X is in his psyche, like trying to basically reverse it. Like, oh shit, I almost killed you. Come on. And so that's all happening while the asteroid is being pulled down to Earth because Magneto's not holding it up anymore. And so the X-Men on the ground come back up to the asteroid to help out, stabilize Wolverine, and all the while, like, Professor X is trying to save Magneto. This is an allusion to one of the most controversial villains in X-Men history. His name is Onslaught, and he is the combination of Professor X and Magneto's psyches. And he is a Omega level mutant. He is a Avengers level threat. Like the whole Marvel comic universe had to fight him to stop him.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yes. So I mean, that's possibly where we're going next season.
They do hint at something else. Even though you addressed they already did that storyline. Because they all work together to try and stop the asteroid from hitting the Earth. Which I will say is a little issue I have with one thing, just because you say Avengers level threat. Like, okay, yeah, an asteroid hitting the Earth. This is every superhero on Earth level threat. And they clearly established that the other Marvel characters are in there because we see Captain America at one point. I'm sure
Iron Man.
I'm sure you lost your shit when you saw Spider-Man.
Yes, I lost my shit multiple times when I saw Spider-Man. You see him in episode, I think it's 2 or 3, and he's in his suit. I'm like, that's 90s Spider-Man. And then
I didn't see him in the suit.
Yeah, you see him in the suit. And then '90s Peter Parker and Mary Jane are watching a
Well, yeah,
television about
I
the
saw that.
asteroid coming down.
Yeah, I
Oh
saw
yeah,
that. I knew
I
that was
freaked the fuck
them.
out.
But
The Iron Man 2 is also the '90s Iron Man cartoon version of Iron Man, so all of
yeah,
it's connected. Everybody's gonna fall in love. It's perfect. Like,
but the point I was making, okay, like Captain America, like there ain't much he can do about an asteroid. He's literally a foot soldier, basically, just really super strong. Iron Man's can fly. Iron Man has laser beams and missiles and things like that. Like, why was he helping with the asteroid? You can help.
yes, but it's an X-Men show. That's why.
I get why, but it's like that's the problem you have with some of these or these cameos. Like, this person can easily help. Why are they helping?
But yeah, so and so they are trying to stop the asteroid. They do stop the asteroid. Except they are ripped through time and space and separated from each other. Um,
In two groups, I mean, I think only the people sent to the future. It seems like it's a Cyclops and Jean Grey, but I didn't see any more.
yes, yes,
It looks like everyone else is sent to the past.
yeah. Bishop, Forge, Jubilee, Roberto, Wolverine, and Morph are still in our time, like the
Okay.
actual time. Um, and then um, Jean Grey and Cyclops go into the future, and it's the same future that they sent Cable.
Okay.
And the Nightcrawler, Magneto, um,
Professor
Rogue,
X.
and Professor X, they get sent back to the past in ancient Egypt, and they encounter Apocalypse before he's like fully fledged Apocalypse.
Yeah. So I saw that. So I knew kind of where they're going with that. Now, granted, you said they already did the Apocalypse storyline, so I don't think they're gonna do it again. But they're
They might
clearly,
do. They might do some origins. They could bring in Kang the Conqueror as his King Tut form. There's a couple things. I mean, Apocalypse is a reoccurring villain, so
yeah.
you can't go wrong there. It's
No,
just
but
a.
they won't do the same story they already did,
Oh yeah,
obviously.
yeah, yeah. No, no, no. They won't do the
Um,
Age of Apocalypse type storyline again. No.
no. Now, since you're more familiar with the comics, I have no idea what's going on in that future part. Did you?
Yeah, that's the future that they send Nathan to heal his well, not to heal but to manage his techno-organic virus. So there's a whole storyline there where basically they learn more information about how Nathan grew up, as you saw the young Nathan in at the very end there. And they basically
Yeah.
just get some family time and kind of
Mm,
the ability to grieve the fact that they weren't able to raise him.
mm,
And it's a very key moment in Cyclops's life, especially because he obviously see throughout the entire series he carries a lot of grief of not being able to like be a
be the first
father
son.
because he didn't have a father because his father is part of the Starjammers and jumping all across space, basically a space pirate. His father figure was Charles Xavier, who just betrayed him, and him himself as a father had to give up his son to
So
to
he could
have the
live.
best chance of him living. So fatherhood is a struggle for him, and that kind of arc allows him to make some of his peace with it. So
Okay, I wasn't sure if they were setting up like a villain arc or something there, but okay, I see what they're doing. That's
no,
pretty good.
there is a villain there. There is a villain there.
Well,
I don't know if they're gonna go that route, but
mm-hmm.
basically there is a clone of Cable,
Oh, because
and
the future did seem kind of desolate.
yeah, there's a clone of Cable. I'm blanking on his name right now. It's not really important. Who basically it's either a clone of Cable or the alternate universe of Cable, but he basically lets the techno organic virus take over, and this is the end result. And they're very much so at odds. So they could be setting up that. I'm not 100% sure what they're really trying to do, but um, it is cool that they are referencing that. Um, so yeah, I'm hoping we get some Cable and Deadpool stuff. Cable and Deadpool is always one of my favorite um pairings because they're so much at odds with each other.
Yeah. Deadpool Cable, Deadpool Wolverine. Putting Deadpool the straight man's great. I mean, even Deadpool and Spider Man's great.
Yes. Yes,
Um,
absolutely yes.
I mean, speaking of Spider Man, since we're now at the end of the show, it's going forward because they're clearly this is a successful endeavor that they have, and I think they'll always continue X-Men 97. But there has been some talks that one of the I think it was one of the writers for the Spider-Man cartoon in the '90s said, "If they want me to come back to do Spider-Man '97, just let me know. I'll do it." And Spider-Man's in the show,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I mean, maybe we'll get some other classic cartoons returning. I'm sure you will be seated every week if this Spider-Man '97 becomes a theme.
I will also his Cable's clone's name is Strife. I had
Okay.
I had to look it up.
Fair.
But yeah, no, they bring back Spider-Man 97 or whatever they're gonna call it. I will freak out. Freak out. You will never see me happier than that moment. That I can promise you.
So you hear that, Disney? You want me this man to lose your shit?
I mean, I feel as though they kind of like set the groundwork for it. I mean, he's there.
there.
Like I
He's
just
there.
like
The writer wants to come back. The groundwork is being laid.
like why would
And
you do that? Why would you do that Spider-Man if you weren't going to use him? That's my thing. Like,
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, it's Spider-Man. Like, this is the world's arguably the world's most recognizable, most popular hero.
Yes, exactly. So that's hoping where they go from here. Season 2 obviously have big plans, so very excited about that. I cannot wait. The series was just fantastic overall. They nailed every aspect of it. So, like I said, my rating was 10 out of 10. I firmly hold that. It is so good.
Right?
Our aggregate was 9.75. It's still like tippy top of
It's
the
near.
universe.
It's near perfect. I mean, this is as close to as you can get. I mean, damn it.
I
Yeah.
100% agree. Go watch the show. As this review is winding down, go watch the show. Go do it. Go do it now. But yeah, that's going to conclude our review for X-Men 97. We had a lot of great things to say about it. Expect more of these TV show / movie reviews because we're half of the name is culture. We're gonna look at this stuff as well. So keep tuned for that. Keep tuned for more game reviews. Keep tuned for more podcasts. No matter what, we'll see you in the next video.
Adios.